Jody and Kathy Victor team. My name is Stephen Winters, and me and my wife, Kim, are number one, incredibly honored to be speaking to your team tonight. Thank you so much for having us. I mean, to me, Jody and Kathy Victor are absolute legends in the business. I don't know if my family or all of LTD would be where it's at without the leadership and the example that the Victor family has set. And I'm just so thankful that they have taken an interest in Larry and Pam Winters when they really needed some help. The Victor family stepped in and said, "Hey, we've got your back. We'll be here for you." And they've helped so many people on our team. And what they've done for the world of Amway is just incredible. And I look at them from a distance and I say, man, I want a team like that. I want to be leaders like they are. I want to serve the IBOs like they serve the IBOs on the IBO AI board. And what they do behind the scenes is just incredible. And so thank you so much for allowing us to share. We are personally sponsored in business by my parents, Larry and Pam Winters, and we live here in Raleigh, North Carolina. We have 3 boys, Grayson, Maverick, and Tucker, and we have a lot of fun, as you guys do. I love raising my boys on our parents' farm. It's a lot of fun just letting them be boys, and I know that's how the Victor boys were raised as well, having fun, playing sports, doing the cool stuff. And that's just how we chose to raise our sons. But it's such a blessing that they have this incredible team to be raised around and examples like the Victor family. You know, I look at what Joe and Steve have done to carry on the legacy that their parents obviously are still building, but man, it's just incredible. And so we're appreciative. Tonight, I want to talk to you a little bit about what Larry Winters calls the concept of threes. And if you look at Larry and Pam Winters' business, they learned this from people like Jody and Kathy Victor. And I can't remember who this quote is attributed to, but I've heard my dad say it so many times. In my mind, it's his quote, but I know he took it from someone else. And he always talks about how if you want to see the intelligence of somebody, watch how they can take complicated concepts and break them down simple enough for the average person to understand. And that's exactly what Jody and Kathy Victor are so good at. That's exactly what Larry and Pam Winters have studied from afar and mastered themselves. And so tonight, I want to take some of the allure or maybe some of the mystical side of the business away and strip all that away and go, you know what? This is not some abstract randomness. This can actually be a very predictable business if you put the right ingredients in. Now, of course, you know, in any business, there's no guarantees. You have to go do a lot of work. You have to be consistent. We're going to cover a lot of that tonight. But you can have a framework and a pattern to follow. And no one can guarantee that it's going to work out exactly like it worked out for the Victors or Larry and Pam Winters or even me and my wife, Kim. But at least you can get a lot closer and you have something to go off of. It's like a game plan in the game of football. The coach puts a play out there. Sometimes you have to call an audible. Sometimes the defense doesn't react the way you thought they were going to. Sometimes the person you thought was going to be open isn't. And so you have to make adjustments on the fly. That's life. That's business. But what my dad and mom have done is really sat back and said, okay, we've been doing this for 44 years now, which is an incredible career. And I know that they're just getting started compared to Jody and Kathy. But 44 years in the business, they've looked at all the people that they've seen go platinum, including themselves, including me and my wife, Kim. And they said, what really matters? When you strip away all the other stuff that might be important, but it may be not 100% necessary at this moment. What are the things that we can do to simplify this process called going platinum? Because there are a lot of different levels and pins that you can reach in the Amway business. But what my dad has always taught me is that realistically, the only pin you can achieve is the platinum pin. Because once you go platinum, yes, you can then help other people go platinum, and they'll call you different pins and you'll receive different rewards and recognition. But in all reality, you're just a platinum who helped a few people go platinum. Now, you can help nobody go platinum, or you can help a lot of people go platinum. You might not even want to go platinum yet. Maybe you're just brand new and you're going, man, I just want to make a little bit of money. I can't even fathom putting together a platinum business. And that's okay. That's where I was when I got started. But we are going to simplify this so that if you decide one day I'd like to try to go platinum. I'd like to put 7,500 points for 6 months in the fiscal year through my business and make a little bit more money than I'm making now, have a little bit more successful business than I have right now in the Amway business. Well, that's fine. You can go back to these notes, and at any time you can say, what is the framework? What does this look like? What am I trying to accomplish? The word my dad uses is a blueprint. It's hard to build anything if you don't have a blueprint to follow. And so tonight, that's what we're going to do. And the reason I call this the concept of threes is because my dad likes to make things simple, and he likes to create things that you can remember. And so we're going to talk about all of the threes tonight. There's a lot of them, and we're going to have some fun. And these are the same things that I did to build my business. And when you talk about going platinum, the first set of three that I want to give you is that there are 3 ways that you can go platinum that I know of. There might be more. Jody and Kathy have seen a lot in their day. They've seen a lot. And so maybe they can name 1 or 2 more. But as far as I know, there's 3 ways that you go platinum. And the first one is you go platinum. Second one is your downline goes platinum. And so that pushes you over 7,500 points. You know, maybe you didn't do a lot of it. Maybe you just sponsored someone who is really ready to run and they go platinum. And so by default, you're a silver. Maybe you're a platinum, depending on your side volume and your structure. And then the third way is your upline builds you a platinum business. And this doesn't happen all the time. This is definitely not something that anybody has promised you when they signed you up in the Amway business. You own your own business. You're in control of your future in most cases. But every once in a while, maybe if you are in a certain part of your upline's organization, they say, hey, this is a very important part of my business. If I can help this person go platinum, that helps everybody. And they might spend a little bit of extra time making sure that your business gets to the point where you have enough sales and enough volume created through enough IBO ships that you hit 7,500 points. And so those are the 3 ways that you go platinum that I know of. And the reason I want to point this out is because, in my opinion, they're all good. None of them are better than the other ones. None of them are right, and none of them are wrong. It's just different scenarios that I've seen and heard of. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to be in control of my business. And there are always factors that were out of control for me. But for the most part, I wanted to know how to build the business so that I could grow my volume and my retail sales. And so I could grow my selling teams if I wanted to. And I could help other people grow selling teams if that's what I chose to do and if that's what they wanted to do. And so I wanted to be in control so that I could control the growth of my business. That way, whatever level I wanted to achieve, I knew how to make it happen. And the other 2 are totally fine. There's nothing wrong with those. But I wanted to be in control, not as a control freak, not as a dictator or a tyrant. Those are bad leadership traits. But I wanted to be able to say, hey, if I need to add $100 a month to my income, how can I do that through my Amway business? Well, if you know the steps and the work ethic and the sales needed and the volume needed to make that happen, you're a lot better off. You can kind of control that. And so this is the first concept of threes, is understanding the 3 different ways that a platinum business is built. You do it, you sponsor someone who pushes you over 7,500 points, or your upline comes in and does it. And if that's the case, never be afraid of that. That's a blessing. If you have an upline who's willing to work in your business and help you grow, that's a win-win situation. What I would recommend is watching and observing and learning as they do that so that you can learn faster. You can learn from their experience, not necessarily just from yours. And that's going to make things a lot smoother. I wish I had that. You know, when I first got started, my dad told me, Steven, I can't physically help you at this point in my business, but you can go to some meetings, you can attend some trainings, you can listen to some audios, you can read some books, and there's things that you can do to kind of learn how to do this thing. And I thought that was great. I never even realized that there were some people who have an upline who's physically helping them build a business. And so my learning curve was a lot steeper than some of the people around me. And you know what? That's fine. That is totally fine. I went platinum. They went platinum. It all worked out. But Those are the different scenarios. And so I struggled a lot when I first got started. I remember being so nervous to show the plan the first time. I remember being so nervous to sell my first product. I remember being so nervous to do all of this because I never had anybody to guide me or show me. Kind of just had to figure it out. But winners find a way. And if you want to figure something out bad enough, you will. And that's what I was willing to do. I wanted the end result more than the comfort level that I wanted to stay in. I said it's worth it for me to get out of my comfort zone and learn these skill sets, even though it was scary, even though it was hard. And so that's the first concept of threes. How do you go platinum? You do it, your downline does it, or your upline does it. And so what does it take to go platinum? Well, there are three ingredients that I've seen and observed from all the people that I've met who have gone platinum. And if you really listen to their stories and listen to what they talk about, there's three concepts and ingredients that they always mention putting into their business. And the first one, I'll just write this as big as I can here, is work ethic. You have to have a work ethic in order to go platinum. The second thing is commitment. I'm not sure if I spelled that right, but commitment is very important. And then the third thing is the proper structure at the proper time for the pin level that you're shooting for. And see, when you have these three ingredients, if you talk to any platinum throughout their story, they will probably mention some of these things. For me, work ethic was pretty simple. I was willing to do the work. I had a semi-professional background as an athlete. I raced semi-professional dirt bikes and motocross for a few years, along with my brother, who was a professional racer for quite a few years, actually. And so work ethic was not new to me. I understood work ethic. What I needed to do is know how to guide that work ethic. I needed to know what to do. I needed to know how to do it. And a lot of that I learned from trial and error and from studying people who had gone before me. They didn't tell me exactly what to say or exactly how to do it, but they gave me thought process and mindset that I could go apply. And as long as I did it consistently enough, eventually I figured it out. And so the work ethic that I remember, there was a couple moments in my business where I really honed in on the work ethic for me that it took to go platinum. And again, you might have a different scenario. Everybody's business shapes up a little bit differently. But the first one I remember, I'll never forget this concept. I was in a meeting and there was a person on stage who was very successful in the business. They had built a very stable and solid platinum business and helped a couple other people go platinum. And they were talking, and I felt like they were talking directly to me. So I'm going to use it like they were, but they weren't. They were talking to a crowd of people. And I remember him saying, Steven, if you'll just put 30 tick marks on your mirror every day with a dry erase marker, not a Sharpie. Learned that one the hard way. But if you'll put 30 tick marks on your mirror every month with a dry erase marker, every single day that you do something to move your business forward, erase a tick mark. And by the end of the month, your goal is to have all of those tick marks erased. And I thought, I can do that. And then I had to think about some different things that I could do, like selling a product or showing the plan, things that moved my business forward. And this is what I mean by stripping away the unnecessary things. I had to read books to learn how to grow and change, to be able to lead people, to be able to lead myself, to be able to develop communication skills and people skills and treat people right. There was things that I needed to work on. Not everybody listening to this needs to work on all those things. You probably have a lot less things to work on than you think you do. You probably got in a lot better off and sharper than me when I first got started. I told you I raced dirt bikes. Business was not my thing. But I remember those things were important for me. Reading, listening, attending meetings. That was vital for me and my personal growth. But none of those things grew my volume. They grew me so that I could be a better person, better leader, better business owner, But if I wanted to grow my volume, if I wanted my business to grow, that wasn't going to help. That didn't put more volume in my account. And so I had to learn to do the things every single day that were actually productive in moving me forward. And so the next thing is commitment. It takes commitment to be successful at anything. If you're going to be successful in any endeavor on planet Earth that I've ever seen, you're going to have to be committed. And here's what commitment means. It's how consistently can you do the work. See, a lot of people, me included, doing the work is not the hardest part. The hardest part is fitting it in when you have life happen, because we all have life happen. And it's okay to get distracted, but you have to recognize it and get undistracted as fast as possible so you can get back on track in order to reach the dreams and goals that you said you have. And so that's where commitment comes in. You know, sometimes I had to say no to family events. I'm not telling you you had to do that, but I looked at the time frame in which I wanted to go platinum. I looked at my calendar, and there was things that my family said, hey, we're going to do this. And I said, hey, that's great for you guys, but at this point in my business, I need to go build my business. I've got some meetings set up. I've got some customer appointments set up. I got things that are going to move me forward. This is great, but it's not necessary. You guys go do that. Enjoy that. And there's nothing wrong. I don't judge you for that. They didn't judge me for this. Maybe a little bit, but not outwardly, right? They didn't tell me they did. And I went and did the things that I needed to do because I set a goal and my goal was important to me. Nobody else put pressure on me. Nobody else told me what my goals or my work ethic or my commitment needed to be. No one made me do these things. I chose to because I was committed to my dreams and goals. When I wanted to be a professional motocross racer, I had to train every day. It didn't matter if it was sunny or raining, if I felt good, if I didn't feel good, if I was tired, didn't matter. If I wanted to be a pro, I had to act like a pro. And pros train even when they don't feel like it. Well, if I wanted to be a successful business owner, I had to act like a successful business owner, and I had to prioritize my business. Does not mean that it's the most important thing in my entire life. Doesn't mean that I sacrifice my family for it, but it does mean that I had to make it a priority. And that's what commitment means. I've heard commitment put this way. It's how often do you think about your business, not about the business. Because it's nice to say, man, aren't Jody and Kathy amazing? You know, isn't Steve and Joe, aren't they just awesome? I'm so glad we're on their team. Man, that joke that they told at the last meeting, that was so funny. You know, it's one thing to think about the business, right? It's another thing to think about your business and say, what do I need to do right now to move me closer to my dreams and goals? That's commitment. And so the last one is structure. And again, if you don't have a blueprint, which nobody's business shapes up perfect, but if you don't have a blueprint of some kind, it can seem like this abstract, I have no idea what I'm trying to accomplish, I have no idea what I'm trying to do concept. And that's hard for some people. That's really hard for people like myself. I really needed someone to say, this is what you need to do. And this is what it should look like in theory. Get it close enough, right? You hold up a perfect business model. It's never going to be perfect, but you fight for that. And if you get close, you're happy with it. And so when I looked at the structure that it took to go platinum, and again, you need to check with your upline. Maybe Jody and Kathy teach something different. And if they do, that's totally fine. Listen to them. They have a much bigger and more successful business than I do. And I mean that sincerely. So check upline. But from what I have observed and the things that my parents have taught me is that we build our business with the concept of 1 out of 3 in sponsoring. What does that mean? It means that if I wanted to go platinum, I was probably going to have to sponsor 12 to 15 personally sponsored legs or selling teams. And why do I have to sponsor 12 to 15? Because 1 out of 3 are probably going to quit before they ever get started. Why do they quit? I don't know. I wish they didn't, but I can't make them not quit. It's their business. It's their life. It's their choice. I don't own anybody. They don't work for me. They own their own business. And if they decide not to pursue the business, that is totally fine. I can't control that. So I don't worry about that. People step away from things all the time. Life happens, things change, they make different decisions. It doesn't mean anything bad about you or your business. It just happens. Some people, they just want this to be a little side hustle, if you will. They want to sell some products. They want to create a selling team, and they don't really see it getting very big. And you know what? That's exactly what Amway was designed for. There's nothing wrong with that. I would love to have a lot of people like that on my team. And I encourage that. And we want to help them do those things and reach their goals, not my goals. And so if someone says, I just want to sell a couple products a month and make a little bit of extra money, we're going to show them how to do that. And so that's the second category, is people who maybe are not super active in sponsoring. They're not super active in, let me go develop some more customers every single month. They're happy just selling a few products, and I'm happy for them. But it's hard to build a team around that. And so the last category that we'll talk about is you're probably going to have 1 out of 3. If you sponsor 12 to 15, 3 or 4 are going to quit. 3 or 4 are just going to, treat this like a little side hobby. Totally fine. It's their business, their choice. And then the last one is some people are going to say, you know what? I really want to build something. I want to do something that's going to help my family. I really want to make $1,000 a month or $500 a month. Or man, if I could make $1,500 a month, that would be incredible. And so they see it a little bit bigger. They're the ones that are actually going to build this thing. And the term that I like to use is they treat it like a real business, right? They're willing to apply these concepts, And so they're all good. We'll take any of them, right? We want to help everybody that is willing to let us help them. But that category is what I built my platinum business around. And so what does that look like? Well, if you're left with 3 or 4 selling teams that are excited about moving forward and growing a business and growing a team, then here's typically what a platinum business is going to look like. Your first selling team is probably going to sell 4,000 points a month in volume, your end products. Your second selling team is probably going to be around 2,500 points a month. And then your third selling team is probably going to be about 1,000 points a month. And if you had a business just like that with your personal sales and customer volume and your personal use, and then maybe a couple of the people who just want to treat this like a side hustle and sell a couple products, when you add all that together, that's 7,500 points or maybe a little bit more. And guess what? If you hold that for 6 months out of the year, they call you a platinum. And so when you break it down, you sponsor 12 to 15, 3 or 4 quit, 3 or 4 are just selling a few products, and 3 or 4 are going to actually build something. You go, okay, that makes a lot more sense. I can do that. Now I knew what my work ethic and what my commitment needed to look like. Now I know what I'm committed to. What am I trying to accomplish here? And then the structure made a lot of sense for me because I could see it. I could see going, okay, you know what? I don't really have to help someone go 4,000 points. That seemed like a big deal to me. I didn't honestly know if I could do that myself, let alone help somebody else. And my dad laughed and he said, Stephen, why are you trying to go 4,000 points? I said, well, that's part of the game plan to go platinum, right? Like I need that. And he said, why don't you just get really good at going 1,000 PV and helping a couple other people go 1,000 PV? Have you gone 1,000? Yeah, I have. Okay, can you teach that to 3 other people? I think so. It's pretty simple. I remember what I did to get there. Okay, go teach, but most importantly, show them and help them. And guess what? You'll be a 4,000 PVer. But you really just got good at helping people go 1,000. And see, that's what I mean by breaking it down to the simple things. And so maybe you're listening to this right now and you're going, wait a second, I'm at 1,000 points. Well, congratulations. You know everything that you need to know to go platinum. Just help 7 other people do what you've done. And Amway will give you rewards and recognition, and they'll call you a platinum depending on the structure and the customer volume that you have. Make sure you get with your upline and get all the details on that to make sure you qualify for those things. But they'll call you a platinum. But in reality, you just went 1,000 PV and taught that to 7 people. And see, this is what I mean when I say simplifying things. Because when my dad asked me that question, he said, Stephen, what is the average selling team on your business team right now? Like, what do they produce? I said, about 200 points. He said, okay, so the average IBO on your team, average now, I mean, some do more, some do less, but average does about 200 points. So in theory, how many people does it take on your business team to go 1,000 points? About 5. Okay. Help 7 people put together a sales team of 5 IBOs who are all selling 200 points a month, and they'll call you a platinum. And I went, I can do that. And so this is what I mean by understanding what you're trying to accomplish and the blueprint, so to speak. When I had that framework, did my business shape up exactly like that? No. Did I get close? I got pretty close. But it didn't matter that I didn't hit it exactly because I still reached the end goal, which was 7,500 points with proper VCS through proper amount of structure for 6 months straight. And what do you know? They called me a platinum. Pretty amazing. And so this is the ingredients. Now, there's some other things that it takes to put this together. You know, we talked about work ethic. We talked about narrowing it down to where you can understand what are the things that actually grows my business. Well, there are a couple things that you want to put into your business. And these are the things to me that moved my business forward. You might have a few more. You might take some away. Check with your upline. Jody and Kathy know the business better than probably anybody, to be honest with you. So they might have a few that they want to add to this. But for me and my wife, these are the 3 things that we focused on. Because I learned a long time ago that if you focus on things that are outside of your control, you're going to get really frustrated. That is the definition of frustration, is if you're worried and concerned and focused on things that you can't control. You're going to put yourself in a very frustrating position. So what I wanted to do was, what can I control? What are the things that I can do on a daily basis to move my business forward? And they were very, very simple. Remember, we talked about the concept of 3. Everything is broken down into 3s, right? At least for us. You know, you could add as many numbers as you wanted, probably, if you really thought about it. But the first thing is, I said every day, I'm going to use my own products. Now, why did I decide to use my own products? Well, the first thing is, if I owned a business, I want to support my business. And if I don't know my products, I didn't feel like I could sell the products. And so if I had never tried an XS energy drink, it's really hard to market that or to sell that to somebody else. I don't really have a lot of personal testimony. And so I decided, if I'm going to drink an energy drink, it's going to be XS. Why? Because that's part of my business. You know, I own an Amway business. I'm an IBO, and they give me access to XS energy drinks, and it's a great product in my opinion. I love the flavor. I love the taste. I love how it makes me feel. I've never had any negative side effects, and so to me, it's a great product. And so I wanted to use my own products. So that was step number 1. Every day I said, I'm going to use my own products. Nobody put a quota on me. Nobody told me I had to use my own products. Nobody said you can never drink any other brand of energy drinks. No one told me that. I just decided that because I wanted to be focused and committed to my business. You decide that on your level and do what's right for your family, but I wanted to use my own products every day. The second thing is, I was going to sell some products. And here's what that looked like for me. Did I sell a product every day? No. That would be great. That'd be amazing, but it's unrealistic, right? Now, if you build a sales team, you might have products flowing through your business every day. That could potentially be a possibility. I could see that. But for the average person like myself, average IBO, getting started, just kind of figuring things out, I didn't sell a product every day. But it doesn't mean I couldn't have a conversation with a potential customer every single day. And so this was one of the things that I put as a tick mark on my mirror. Remember, I said every day you try to erase one of the tick marks. You have 30 tick marks, depending on the month, of course. And every time I did something to move my business forward, I would erase one. And by the end of the month, I tried to have 0 tick marks left on my mirror. And one of the things that I could do to feel good about myself and erase a tick mark was talk to a customer or a potential customer. That means that I could sample a product. That means that I could maybe allow them to buy a product from me. I could sit down and sit with a customer and ask them their needs and see if we have products that help fill those needs, and I could just have customer conversations. And if I sold a product, I felt really good about myself. I remember my mom saying that she didn't really know if she could build the business, but once she sold her first product, she said, wait a second, I just became successful. I sold a product. If I can do it once, I can do it as many times as I want to. This is great. And it raised your belief. And that was exactly how it was for me. Every time I sold a product, I felt better about my business. And so I wanted to sell products. And then the third thing is, I'm going to abbreviate this one. I wanted to show the plan. STP, show the plan. My dad always told me it's really hard to sponsor someone in the Amway business if you don't talk to them about the Amway business. That made sense to me, right? Like I said, we keep things really simple around here. And so if I wanted to put together a sales team, well, it's really hard to do that if they don't even know how the business works or even that the business exists. And so I had to get good at explaining the business to people. I had to get good at showing people how the compensation plan worked, how to sell products, how the differentials worked. I had to learn about all the different types of bonuses and the new incentives that Amway put out there. I had to be able to explain this to people who are looking for something. They might not be looking for what we do, but if they had an interest in doing something to make a little bit of extra money or to make ends meet or looking for maybe a business that they could own without a lot of overhead and without a lot of risk, I would show them what we do and see if it made sense for them to become an IBO. And see, if I did these three things, I felt like I had a really good day. I didn't do all three of them. I definitely didn't do all three of them every single day. But these are the things that I could control. And every day I would do these things, I would be able to erase one of my tick marks and go to bed at night saying, I moved my business forward. You know what's amazing? Some days I got to erase multiple tick marks. Some days I didn't erase any. But I stayed committed to my goal and I stayed focused and I didn't let the bad days get me down. And so this is what we did every single day. I say we, me and my wife, Kim. That's what we focused on every single day. And that was the work ethic for us. These are the things that we focused on. My dad used to tell me things like, Stephen, it's great to read that book. That's going to grow you, but it doesn't grow your Amway business. You need to do things that grow your Amway business along with growing yourself. Because growing yourself is a lifelong journey. You're never going to be done. I hope that when I'm 75, that I am still growing and changing. But that doesn't mean that I can't master the skill sets of building the Amway business much sooner than 75. And so one of those things, becoming a better person, is a lifelong journey. We're always going to be getting better, hopefully. That's at least what I want to do. I'm not telling you have to do that. You might be great already. Jody and Kathy are pretty amazing, right? But I wanted to get better as a person. But learning the skill sets of building an Amway business didn't have to take me forever. And there was a set number of things that I needed to do for what I was trying to accomplish. And so that was how I broke it down. And see, when you start putting these concepts together, you start realizing that, man, maybe I'm overcomplicating this thing. Maybe I'm thinking that it's a bigger deal than I originally thought. Now, the rewards of going platinum are amazing. And the rewards of helping somebody get started in a business and helping them grow and helping them make, that's so amazing to me. That's very rewarding. And I love that. I love helping people. But I also realized that I was making it too big of a deal in my head. It is not easy to go platinum. Trust me. I can tell you that firsthand. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of focus and dedication and commitment and all the things that your upline is telling you it takes. I promise you, it's probably going to take that plus some. I don't know if this applies to our business, but I can tell you that one of my really good friends, he's a platinum on my parents' business team. And he always says, anytime you're looking at starting a business, just realize it's probably going to take twice as long as you think, and it's probably going to take twice as much money as you think. And I found that to be very true. Whenever I'm helping someone go platinum, I'm like, look, it's probably going to take twice as long as you think. right? Whatever your mindset is, double it. And that's probably more realistic. Whatever work ethic you think it's going to take, double it. That's probably more realistic. And even if that's not the case, that's a good way to look at your business, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean that it has to be complicated. Just because it's hard doesn't mean it can't be simple. Because we all know that things that are usually very simple to do are also very simple not to do. And in my experience, that's the difference, is that some people, they keep it simple. They focus on what matters most over things that matter, but maybe not right now. Maybe they're not urgent. Maybe they're not super important today. They might be important. They might need to be done. But I heard a long time ago that people who go platinum, they learn to focus on what must be done versus what should be done. We have a lot of shoulds in our life. There's a lot of things I should do more often, better, more consistently, more intentionally, whatever word you want to use. But there are a few things that I must do if I want to build a platinum business. And I don't mean that you must do them. I'm not saying that someone told me I must do these things. I'm saying I have to put together enough of a sales team to create 7,500 points. That's a non-negotiable. If I want to be called a platinum, I have to run 7,500 points somehow, some way through my business 6 months out of the year. So what are the things that I can do to do that? That's what I mean by what must be done based on my dreams and goals and the things that I was trying to accomplish. And I learned that I didn't have to really be concerned with becoming a great leader at first. You'll develop your leadership as you go. What I had to do is learn to focus on leading myself, because I'm the first person that I need to learn to lead. And if I'm not doing the things that I'm asking people on my team to do, I don't have the right to ask them to do it. I had to lead by example. I had to go do we call them the core habits or the core steps, or whatever word your upline uses. They probably have these things that they say, hey, these are our 3 steps or our 4 steps or 5 steps, that if you do these things, we've seen a lot better chance of you becoming successful. That's all I did. Is I said, I need to get committed to doing those steps. And I listed 3 of them today. But those steps, if I can get committed to doing that, I'm learning to lead myself. I'm learning to overcome challenges. I'm learning to overcome time restraints. I'm learning to overcome comfort level. I'm learning to overcome my fear and doubt. I'm learning to overcome all of these challenges that I had as a new IBO, just getting my business started. But when I overcame them, I could help other people overcome them. And so I developed a following, which is the definition of a leader, by learning to lead myself and then being able to show other people how to do that. So I didn't worry about that up front. Nowhere in the Amway guidebook does it say you have to be the perfect leader to go platinum. It says you have to have 7,500 points for 6 months. Now, being a good leader might help in that, but it's not a necessity. When you go platinum, they're not going to call you and ask you, hey, how many books have you read? If it's not the right number, you don't get that platinum pin. They don't say that. They say, congratulations, you ran the proper amount of volume through the proper amount of legs with the proper VCS for a certain amount of months. We're going to call you a platinum. Congratulations. And there's a lot of cool rewards that come along with that. But I had to learn to lead me, and the rest followed. I figured all that out as we went. That's why you have an upline. That's why you have someone who's been there and done it. They can kind of show you the ropes. They can teach you and guide you along the way. Nobody's perfect. Nobody knows everything. Jody and Kathy are pretty darn close, okay? But they're still not perfect, and nobody knows everything. But they've got wisdom. They've got experience. Everything that the Winters family knows about building the Amway business, we learned from people like Jody and Kathy. We learned from people who had gone before us and been there and done it. And they've helped a lot of other people, including us. And so you guys have the best of the best. I know that probably nothing I covered tonight was ground shaking or life-changing information. This is probably stuff that you're hearing all the time. But when I think about going platinum, these are the concepts that I use and I keep referring back to. And so hopefully this helped you. We are so honored to be able to share with you guys tonight. Thank you again for what you do. Thank you again for inviting us in. It truly is an honor. And we can't wait to see you guys soon.
For the calendar year 2024,